We are on the website of Credit Info Center, and we're going to read an article entitled How to Settle Debts with Collection Agencies. Settle debts on your own with our debt settlement techniques. And I will put a link in the description field of the video that brings you directly to this article. Some people are skeptical, saying it is possible to settle a debt that is being handled by a collection agency. We're here to tell you that you can settle an outstanding debt being handled by a collection agency by using our debt settlement strategies. This article addresses a debt which is with a collection agency. If you're trying to settle a debt with the original creditor, please read this debt settlement article. How do you know if your debt is with the original creditor or with the collection agency? Simple. Call the original credit, i.e., the credit card company, and ask them if your debt has been turned over to a collection agency. The original creditor is not going to deal with you. The original debt holder has collected its tax benefits under U.S. tax law for bad debts, hence they have cut the ties with the debt, and you can also pull a copy of your credit report to see who's reporting the debt. Risk and realities of overdue debts. Fact number one, many consumers are unaware of the risk with unpaid debts. Yes, it is true that a creditor could sue you in court and win a judgment, allowing the creditor to garnish your wages or hire a chef to come get your property. However, the chances of this are pretty slim. It is also true that the collection agencies are turning to lawsuits more and more these days, but we would still tell you not to worry. Once you make the creditor aware that you know the law, they are more likely to leave you alone. With savvy consumers, many debt collectors think it is simply too much time, effort, and expense for them to take legal action against the debt. Okay, we don't want to lie to you. The possibility of lawsuit does exist. You might want to take comfort in this. If they do take you to court, often they have no case. There are a lot of players out there, like junk debt buyers who buy and sell debts and place them into $1 million packages to sell on Wall Street. Fact number two, too many consumers feel their debts are overwhelming and there's nothing they can do other than file a bankruptcy. Consumers believe those awful tales spun by collection agencies of impending doom, especially about garnishment and seizure of property. Collection agents fail to mention that in order for these actions to take place, the creditor must first go to court. Due to lack of information, many consumers get panicky and turn into bankruptcy in these situations. Please don't do this. Bankruptcy should not be used until after all options are exhausted, including the settlement procedures we're going to talk about here. In addition to getting out of your debts by settling, see our other alternatives to filing a bankruptcy. Try debt validation. The best way to deal with a collection agency is the debt validation method. So don't bury your head in the sand when you first get a debt collection letter. If you send a debt validation request within 30 days of receiving that anxiety-provoking letter, debt validation offers important protections. This action should be your first step in the settlement process. Check the statute of limitations. Before you attempt to settle a debt, check the statute of limitations on the debt. Collectors only have a certain amount of time to sue you for payments. If your debt is too old, the collector can't take you to court. You can determine if the statute of limitations for collecting a debt in your state has passed. If you find that the debt is older than the statute of limitations, tell any bill collector calling you they are wasting their time by harassing you for an uncollectible debt, as neither they nor the original creditor nor the assigned collection agency can take you to court to get a judgment. Don't confuse the statute of limitations with the amount of time a collection can stay on your credit report. After 7 years, in most cases, a negative mark and the related collections will disappear from your credit report. If the debt has gone unpaid for 7 years, then it can no longer legally remain on your credit report. Before the 7-year mark, you must challenge this listing on your credit report to get it off. You can see how long a negative item remains on your report. However, even though a debt may no longer legally appear on your credit report because it's too old, you can still be sued if the statute of limitations for your debt in your state is not up. If the debt is gone from your credit report via debt validation and the statute of limitations is up on this debt, you're home free. If your debt meets both of the above conditions, it is uncollectible and cannot appear on your credit report. If you get to this point, stop here. You are done, so don't worry about the debt. Good candidates for debt settlement. For the purpose of this article, there are two types of debt, secured and unsecured. Unsecured debts, medical bills, credit cards, department store cards, personal loans, student loans, bounce checks. Secured debts, home and auto. So as a rule, you can only settle unsecured debts. With a secured debt, a piece of real property such as automobile or home is promised if the debtor can't finish making payments or defaults on the loan. You would not be able to settle these debts as the creditor would simply accept the promised property as the settlement. As a matter of fact, with a home or auto loan, you most likely won't be reading this article. Your property will just be repossessed or foreclosed on. With unsecured debts, there's nothing attached to the loan promised as repayment. Unsecured loans typically given to people with good credit due solely to the fact that they have good credit. These are the types of debt that a creditor is willing to settle as they have no way to guarantee they will receive anything from you. How to get a creditor to make the deal you want. You have the natural advantage in debt settlement because you have something the creditor wants. Don't cave in when they first tell you no. Remain calm and don't lose it and get angry. It's usually best to correspond with them via letters so you have a paper trail of all your actions. Keep the attitude at all times that the collection agency will take less money than they say they will. How much should you offer to settle your debt? Debt collectors are not hurting for money. To give you some background on how debt collectors operate, most bad debt companies pay or receive literally pennies on the dollar for the debts for which they are trying to collect. The amount that the company pays for bad debt depends on the type of account and its age. Debts that have recently been charged off, 67 cents on the dollar. Accounts that are slightly older and on which a collection agency or two has already taken a whack, 1.5 cents to 2 cents on the dollar. Years old, out of statute debts, a penny or less. With this in mind, you should always start your offer at 25% or less. Let's understand the math here. If your debt is $1,000, let's say at the most, the collection agency has paid or will collect 7 cents on the dollar or $70. If you offer them $250, which is 25%, they're still making a profit of $180. Remember, the credit card companies are out of the picture at this point. This money goes directly to the collection agencies. Important tips when negotiating your debts. It's best not to talk to a collection agency on the phone. We used to say never. However, if you want to get vital information from the collection agency or even fill them out for what they would take as a settlement, go ahead. Just keep your finger on the hang up button on your phone in case they get nasty. If you do call them, start off the conversation by getting the physical address of the collection agency, the name of the agency, and the direct phone number to the person you're talking to. Get your terms in writing before you even consider making the payment. Never expect the creditor to meet an agreement that was made verbally. Everything must be in writing. Even then, you will probably have to fight to make the creditor live up to his end of the bargain. The older the debt, the smaller the settlement. Logically, if they have called you 50 times and gotten no response, most likely they're going to move on to a better prospect. The collection agency may also choose to sell or assign the debt to a new collection agency for even less money, or temporarily ignore the debt. The course of action chosen by the creditor will vary widely between corporations and debts. Don't agree to payments. This is always a bad idea. If you make payments to a collection agency, like little things like extra interest or handling fees could keep your balance from ever going down. In some cases, making a payment restarts the statute of limitations. Wait until you have one lump sum. Remember, older the collection, the more eager they will be to settle. If they are hounding you, get rid of them by sending a cease and desist letter. Keep good records. This can be the difference between a good and bad settlement. Don't expect them to remember you or what you agreed upon. Send all correspondences via registered mail, receipt requested. This doesn't require a trip to the post office. You can use the USPS online click and ship service. Keep a copy of every letter you send. Keep a log of when you spoke to the agencies and with whom you spoke to. Ask for the name of the supervisor of the person you spoke to, as the turnover rate at collection agency is high. Follow up all phone correspondence with a letter, registered of course. Penalties and extra interest are typically fictitious amounts of money added on by collection agencies to pad their profits. We've seen as much as 50 cents of the debt or more claimed to be owed by a collection agency, consisting of interest and fees. Example, a guy who had his $5,000 original debt balloon up to $11,000 in less than 3 years due to interest and fees. This is illegal. Every state has usury laws which dictate the maximum interest allowed to be charged. If you consider the junk debt buyer paid 7 cents on the dollar or less, there's no way there is this much interest. Never look too eager to settle. Take plenty of time to reach an agreement. Never let it slip that you need to settle the debt because you're buying a home, car, or anything else. If, for example, you tell a creditor that you really need to get this debt settled to get into your dream home, you can forget any kind of settlement. The creditor will insist on the full balance. Try not to accept the first or even second settlement offer, unless, of course, it's really good. If the collection agency is the one calling you to push the deal forward, you have the upper hand. You cannot expect to reach an affordable settlement if the creditor thinks if he's in the driver's seat. Once you hand over the cash, all the wheeling and dealing is over. If you forgot to negotiate the way the listing appears in your credit report, guess what? You're out of luck. Make sure you've gone over your arrangement with a fine-tooth comb. So what if you're contacted by more than one collection agency for the same debt? If you're contacted by more than one collection agency for the same debt, it means that the original creditor has hired a secondary collection agency. This indicates the original creditor and even the first collection agency has given up on you. This means that the second collection agency has paid even less for the debt than the first one. So if the agency hasn't been able to reach you by phone but knows that you're receiving his letters, it may be willing to take even less. So you threaten bankruptcy? Use the threat of bankruptcy. It will be in your best interest if the creditor believes that you have very little money and you are teetering on the edge of bankruptcy. You should approach each creditor as though it is their last chance to compromise and get something out of your debt before you declare bankruptcy and they get nothing. Be careful when doing this, however. If you accumulate any more debt after stating this to a creditor, you may not be able to discharge this debt within bankruptcy. Negotiate your credit rating with your creditor. The next thing you should do is negotiate your credit rating with the creditor. This is very important as a paid collection is as negative to your credit rating as an unpaid collection. All your negotiation efforts and hard cold cash will do nothing to rebuild your credit report if you neglect to negotiate your credit rating in the process. Okay, that concludes the article. I will put this link in the description field of the video that bring you directly to this article. But until we meet again, you guys have a great day.